For years, I saw myself through a distorted lens. Not the way I was, but the way my past, my failures, and the voices of others had defined me. Every mistake, every rejection, every moment of doubt had built an invisible prison in my mind. A version of me that was small, incapable, not enough. And I believed it. But then something happened. I met an old friend, someone I hadn't seen in years. After a long conversation, he said something that shook me. "You've changed, man. You're so much more confident now." I laughed. Me? Confident? I still felt like the same insecure person inside. But that moment made me realize something crucial. Sometimes the way we see ourselves is completely different from the way the world sees us. We hold on to old self-images long after we've outgrown them. We define ourselves by past failures instead of current potential. We refuse to see our growth because we're too busy looking at who we used to be. But what if you're not that person anymore? The Stoics taught that our perception shapes our reality. It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them, said Epictetus. The same applies to you. The limits you see aren't real, they're just old stories. So maybe it's time to let them go. Maybe it's time to see yourself not as who you were, but as who you're becoming. If this message speaks to you, share it with someone who needs it. A friend, a brother, a father. Someone who is still trapped in their own limiting beliefs. And in the comments, tell me, what's the one story about yourself that you need to let go of? 1. You are not your thoughts. You're sitting in a coffee shop, lost in thought. Then, from the table next to you, you hear someone sigh and say, "I'll never be successful." Do you immediately believe they're a failure? Of course not. You understand that it's just a thought, a fleeting whisper in their mind, shaped by doubt or exhaustion. But when your mind says the same thing, it feels like the truth. Suddenly, the voice in your head is no longer just noise. It becomes a judgment, a sentence, a reality. This is the great illusion of the mind. We assume that if a thought appears, it must be meaningful. I'm not good enough. I'll never change. I don't deserve success. These thoughts loop in our heads, shaping how we see ourselves. But here's the Stoic truth. Your mind is a storyteller, not a truth teller. The stories it tells are based on past experiences, fears, and external conditioning, not on reality itself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Your thoughts are not commands. They are not facts. They are just suggestions. And most of them are wrong. Yet we accept them without question. We let them dictate our actions, limit our potential, and shape the way we live. But have you ever stopped to ask yourself, where do these thoughts even come from? Many of the beliefs in your head aren't even yours. They were planted there by childhood experiences, by past failures, by society, by teachers, by critics, by the version of yourself that existed years ago. Think about it. When did you first start believing you weren't enough? Who told you that? Was it something you failed at when you were young? Was it a passing comment from someone who never truly knew you? If a stranger on the street walked up and said, "You'll never be successful," would you believe them? No, you'd laugh it off. You'd think, they don't know anything about me, so why do you believe it just because the voice is inside your own head? This is the biggest mental trap, mistaking thoughts for truth. The Stoics knew this. They practiced detachment from thoughts, a discipline that allows you to step back and observe your mind rather than obey it. Imagine your thoughts as clouds drifting across the sky. Some are dark, heavy, and full of rain. Others are light, passing quickly. But none of them define the sky itself. The sky remains, and so do you. Try this right now. Close your eyes, picture your negative thoughts appearing like text on a screen. Instead of reacting emotionally, just watch them. Don't fight them, don't suppress them. Just let them be. Then imagine yourself stepping back, creating space between you and those words. That's it. That's the first step to freedom. When you learn to observe your thoughts rather than absorb them, you take back control. Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And he was right. Most of what torments us is just noise. Stories we've told ourselves so many times that we mistake them for reality. If you don't control your thoughts, they control you. So how do you break free? The first step is to name the thought. The moment a limiting belief appears, say it out loud or write it down. I'm not smart enough to succeed. Seeing it outside of your mind instantly weakens its power. The second step is to challenge it like a philosopher. Ask yourself, is this 100% true? Where's the proof? Has anyone in history overcome this same doubt? You'll quickly realize that most of these thoughts are baseless. They have no real foundation. They're echoes from the past, not truths of the present. And then the third step, replace it with a Stoic truth. Instead of saying, I'll never succeed, say, I will learn, I will adapt, I will keep going. This isn't toxic positivity. This isn't about pretending everything is fine. It's about seeing reality clearly and choosing the strongest, most resilient response. This is what Epictetus meant when he said, we cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. Mental strength is like physical strength. It is built through discipline. If you let negative thoughts run unchecked, your mind becomes weak. If you question and replace them, your mind becomes sharp. Over time, this rewires your entire self-perception. At first, you won't feel different. The voice of doubt will still whisper, but something will shift, and one day, someone will look at you and say, you've changed. You're so much more confident now. And you'll realize they were right. Not because you became someone else, but because you finally stopped believing the old story. You finally saw yourself for who you really are. And that changes everything. 2. Nobody cares as much as you think. We hold back, we hesitate, we don't chase dreams, take risks, or speak up because we're afraid of judgment. But here's a truth that will change your life. People don't think about you as much as you think they do. Remember the last time you saw someone trip on the sidewalk? Maybe you chuckled, maybe you felt bad for a second, but then you moved on. You forgot. That person, though, they might be replaying that moment in their head for hours, drowning in embarrassment, as if the entire world is watching. That's exactly how we live, trapped in the illusion that everyone is constantly analyzing our every move. But they're not, because they're too busy thinking about themselves. Think about it. How much time do you spend dissecting the actions of others? Probably not much. You're caught up in your own worries, your own insecurities, your own responsibilities, and yet you assume that every little thing you do is being judged under a microscope. It's not. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, said, "You'll stop worrying so much about what people think when you realize how rarely they do." That realization? It's freedom. Because once you let go of this illusion, everything changes. You want to start a business? Do it. You want to speak in front of an audience? Say yes. You want to try something new, but you're scared of looking foolish? Who cares? The people you're afraid of impressing won't even remember. That awkward conversation, that social mistake, that embarrassing moment, it's gone. Faded from everyone's memory, except yours. But why do we still fall into this trap? Why do we let the imagined opinions of others hold us hostage? It comes down to two things: the social survival instinct and ego attachment. Humans evolved in small tribes. For our ancestors, rejection could mean death. Being cast out from the group meant losing access to resources, protection, and support. That's why the fear of judgment feels so real. It's hardwired into our psychology. But here's the thing: we don't live in tribes anymore. You won't die if someone disapproves of you. You won't be abandoned in the wilderness if you embarrass yourself in a meeting. You won't be cast out of society if you fail at something new. The stakes have changed. But our brains haven't caught up. The second reason is ego attachment. We build an identity based on how we think others see us. And when that identity feels threatened, when we fear criticism, rejection, or looking foolish, our minds panic. But here's the harsh truth: you are not the center of anyone's world but your own. Yes, some people will judge. Yes, some people will have opinions. But do their opinions change reality? No. Do they affect your future? Only if you let them. And here's the real paradox: the people you're afraid of judging you, they are just as insecure as you are. Think about the last time you were in a group setting, maybe at work, maybe at a party, maybe in a gym. Did you spend hours evaluating the way someone else spoke? Did you overanalyze their body language? Did you memorize every little mistake they made? No, because you were too focused on yourself. That's what everyone else is doing too. They're thinking about their own struggles, their own goals, their own insecurities. This realization is what frees you. Because once you truly absorb this, hesitation fades. You stop filter every decision through the question, what will they think? And you start asking, what do I want? This isn't just theory. Look at some of the most successful people in history, leaders, inventors, creators. They didn't spend their lives fearing judgment. They acted. They took risks. They moved forward despite the noise. Think about Thomas Edison. He failed over 1,000 times before inventing the light bulb. Do you think he wasted time wondering what people would say about his failures? No. He was too focused on his mission. Or consider Marcus Aurelius himself, a Roman emperor surrounded by critics, enemies, and constant scrutiny. If he lived in fear of what others thought, he would have achieved nothing. Instead, he mastered the art of indifference to opinions that don't matter. And here's a Stoic exercise to train yourself in this mindset: the observer's test. Next time you catch yourself hesitating because of fear of judgment, pause. Look around. Observe people. See how absorbed they are in their own lives. Watch their body language, their focus, and their distractions. Do they seem deeply concerned about what's happening with you? Or are they lost in their thoughts, their world, just like you? 99% of the time, they won't even notice you. The other 1%, they'll forget by tomorrow. So the next time you feel paralyzed by fear of judgment, remind yourself, nobody cares as much as you think. And that's the best news in the world, because it means you are free. Free to try, free to fail, free to reinvent yourself, free to become. 3. No one is coming to save you. We wait. We wait for motivation. We wait for the right time. We wait for someone to recognize our potential and give us an opportunity. But no one is coming. No one is sitting around thinking about how to make your life better. No one is planning to push you toward your goals. If you want something, you take it. If you want to change, you do it. If you want a better life, you build it, brick by brick, choice by choice, day by day. That's not what most people want to hear. They'd rather believe their struggles are someone else's fault. That success is a matter of luck. That if only the right person noticed them, things would change. But that's a fantasy. Look at your life right now. Everything you have or don't have is the result of choices you've made. That may sound harsh, but it's also empowering. Because if your choices got you here, then your choices can take you anywhere. Waiting is a disease. It numbs you. It convinces you that someday, somehow, things will magically fall into place. But someday is a lie. How many times have you told yourself, I'll start tomorrow? How many dreams have you let rot because you were waiting for the perfect moment? The truth is, the perfect moment is never coming. There will always be reasons to wait. Always excuses to stay the same. Always fears whispering, maybe later. But later becomes never. The Stoics understood this. They lived by a simple principle. Control what you can, accept what you can't, and take full responsibility for your life. No blaming, no waiting, no hoping for someone else to fix things. Because here's the reality: if you don't take control, someone else will. If you don't define your life, someone else will define it for you. If you don't make decisions, life will decide for you. And if you refuse to act, you'll wake up years from now wondering why nothing ever changed. But there's something even worse than waiting: expecting. Expecting others to care as much as you do. Expecting people to help without being asked. Expecting someone to recognize your struggles and fix them. No one owes you anything. Not a job, not an opportunity, not a second chance. The sooner you accept that, the sooner you can free yourself from the illusion that someone else holds the key to your future. Think about it. Have you ever seen someone spend years complaining about their situation, waiting for someone to step in and change things for them? How often does that work? It doesn't. Because change doesn't come from wishing. It doesn't come from waiting. It comes from action. The person who takes control of their life, who makes choices without waiting for permission, creates momentum. They don't sit around hoping for motivation. They act, even when they don't feel ready, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's terrifying, because they understand that waiting will never get them there. How many times have you wanted something but hesitated? How many times have you made excuses, thinking, I'll do it when I have more time, or I'll start when I feel more confident? But confidence doesn't come first. Action does. Every person who has ever achieved something significant had moments of doubt. But they moved forward anyway, and that's the difference. So what do you do instead of waiting? You act. You move. You take the first step, even when it's small. Because action is the antidote to waiting. Action is what separates those who build their lives from those who complain about them. You don't need all the answers. You don't need a perfect plan. You just need to start. Ask yourself, what's one thing I've been avoiding? What's one step I can take today that my future self will thank me for? If no one was coming to help, what would I do differently? Then do it. Stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for certainty. Stop waiting for the stars to align. No one is coming to save you. But that's the best news you'll ever hear, because it means you don't have to wait anymore. You can start now. 4. You are not too old to start over. They say time is running out, that if you haven't made it by a certain age, it's too late. That starting over after 30, 40, or 50 is foolish. But that's a lie. You've been conditioned to believe that success has an expiration date, that if you don't achieve something early in life, the door is closed forever. But look around. The world is filled with people who have defied that idea. People who have proved that age is nothing but a number, a meaningless limitation we impose on ourselves. Colonel Sanders was 65 when he founded KFC. Vera Wang designed her first wedding dress at 40. Morgan Freeman's big Hollywood breakthrough didn't come until he was 50. They didn't waste time asking, "Am I too old?" They didn't sit around regretting that they didn't start sooner. They simply started, and so can you. But here's the real question. Do you want to spend the rest of your life wishing you had started? Time will pass no matter what you do. Whether you take action or stay stuck in the same place, the days, months, and years will keep moving forward. The only thing that changes is how you feel when you look back. Will you feel regret, or will you feel pride? We make age an excuse. We tell ourselves that new beginnings are only for the young, that we've missed our chance, that we're too set in our ways, too far behind, too burdened by responsibilities. But the truth is, the only thing standing between you and a fresh start is your belief that it's too late. If that belief is stopping you, then it's not time that's holding you back. It's you. The Stoics understood time better than anyone. They knew that the past is gone, the future is uncertain, and the only thing that truly matters is right now. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." He wasn't trying to scare anyone. He was reminding us that life is fleeting, that we waste too much time trapped in hesitation, and that the only moment we have control over is the one in front of us. How many years have you wasted waiting for the perfect moment? How many times have you looked at someone else's success and thought, if only I had started earlier? But here's the truth, you didn't. And that's fine, because what matters is what you do now. Regret is a heavy weight to carry, and it only grows heavier with time. Every year you hesitate, every time you tell yourself maybe later, you're adding to the burden. But it doesn't have to be that way. People cling to the past like it defines them, but it doesn't. Who were you 5 years ago? That's not you anymore. Who were you last year? That version of you is gone. Even the person you were yesterday, already fading. Every moment you have a choice to change, to reinvent, to start over. And if that's true, then what excuse do you really have? You don't need permission to begin again. You don't need the approval of society, your family, or your younger self. You just need one decision, the decision to move forward, the decision to stop living in the past and start building the future. But if you don't do it now, when will you? If you keep putting it off, where will you be in 5 years? The same place? Still making excuses? Still telling yourself the same tired story? Or will you look back and think, that was the day everything changed? The Stoics had a powerful exercise called negative visualization. Imagining yourself at the end of your life, looking back. What would you wish you had done? What regrets would you have? If you could go back and start something new, would you? The answer is always yes. Because when faced with the reality of time slipping away, the fear of failure fades. The only fear that remains is the fear of never having tried. Regret is worse than failure. Failure stings in the moment, but it teaches, it sharpens, it strengthens. Regret lingers. It eats away at you. It whispers you had more time and you wasted it. But the good news is you're not at the end yet. You're here. You still have time. Not unlimited time, not guaranteed time, but enough. And the best time to start was 10 years ago. The second best time? Right now. 5. What you fear is never as bad as you imagine. Fear magnifies everything. It turns a simple conversation into a catastrophe. It makes failure feel permanent. It convinces you that one wrong move will ruin everything. But have you ever noticed that when you finally face your fears, they are never as bad as you imagined? Think about a time you put something off because of fear. Maybe it was a difficult conversation. Maybe it was a decision you were afraid to make. Maybe it was stepping outside your comfort zone and trying something new. You built it up in your mind, ran through every worst-case scenario, and convinced yourself it was going to be unbearable. Then, when you finally did it, you realized it wasn't that bad. That's because fear is rarely about reality. It's about perception. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And he was right. Most of the time, our fear doesn't come from what's actually happening. It comes from the story we tell ourselves about what might happen. Your mind creates monsters in the dark. It exaggerates risks. It distorts the future. It makes you believe that failure means humiliation, that rejection means ruin, that uncertainty means disaster. But when you finally shine a light on those fears, they shrink. How many times have you dreaded something for days, even weeks, only to finally do it and wonder why you wasted so much energy worrying? This is how the mind works. It fills in the unknown with worst-case scenarios. It convinces you that pain will be unbearable, that embarrassment will be permanent, that mistakes will define you. But none of that is true, because fear is a liar. And once you see through it, you take back control. The Stoics understood this well. They practiced voluntary discomfort, exposing themselves to small challenges so that fear would lose its grip. They understood that the anticipation of hardship is almost always worse than the hardship itself. You can test this right now. Think of something you've been avoiding. Something you've told yourself is too scary, too difficult, too risky. Now ask yourself, what's the worst that can actually happen? Be specific, not vague fears like, "I'll fail," or "it will be embarrassing." What does failure really mean? What would actually happen if you were rejected? What would you do if things went wrong? 9 times out of 10, you'll realize the worst-case scenario is completely manageable. Now flip the question. Instead of asking, "What if this goes wrong?" ask, "What if it's easier than I think?" What if that conversation leads to a solution? What if that risk leads to success? What if you've been wasting time avoiding something that will actually make your life better? The truth is, most fear is just wasted energy. Your brain wants to keep you safe. It was designed to protect you from real threats. But today, real threats are rare. You are not running from wild animals. You are not in life or death danger every time you step outside. Yet your brain still reacts as if you are. It makes you hesitate. It fills your mind with doubt. It makes small risks feel enormous. But the strongest people, the ones who achieve, grow, and build lives of meaning, are the ones who learn to ignore that fear. Not by pretending it doesn't exist, but by facing it, by stepping through it. Realize that fear is just an illusion, one that disappears the moment you act. So, whatever you've been avoiding, stop running. Stop feeding the fear by giving it more time to grow. Just act. No matter how big the fear feels right now, the moment you step forward, it will shrink. And when you realize that, you'll stop letting fear control your life. 6. You don't need to be perfect. Perfection kills progress. It whispers in your ear, if you can't do something perfectly, don't do it at all. It convinces you that mistakes are unacceptable, that failure is proof you should stop, that if your first attempt isn't flawless, you're not meant for success. And so you hesitate, you plan endlessly, you tell yourself you'll start when you're ready. But here's the truth, you will never feel ready. And if you wait for perfection, you'll wait forever. When was the last time you admired someone because they were perfect? You didn't. You admire people because they keep going, because they fight through failures, because they rise every time they fall. You admire persistence, resilience, the refusal to quit. The first iPhone didn't have a front camera. The first Tesla models had major technical issues, but they kept improving, they kept evolving, and now they dominate their industries. They weren't perfect when they started, and neither do you have to be. The greatest lie perfectionism tells you is that you need to have it all figured out before you begin. You need to be fully prepared, fully confident, fully skilled. But the truth is, you learn by doing. You get better by trying, failing, adjusting, and trying again. Yet most people never get past the first step. They spend years planning, waiting, doubting, paralyzed by the fear of imperfection. They convince themselves that one mistake will ruin everything. Unless they can guarantee success, they shouldn't even try. But what if you removed that fear? What if you permitted yourself to be a beginner? What if, instead of asking, "What if I fail?" you asked, "What if I improve?" What if you saw mistakes not as proof that you're not good enough, but as proof that you're growing? The Stoics had no patience for perfectionism. They focused on action, on progress, on moving forward, no matter what. Marcus Aurelius didn't sit around waiting for the perfect time to lead. He took responsibility in the middle of chaos. Epictetus, who started life as a slave, didn't wait for ideal circumstances to begin his philosophical journey. He learned in hardship. How long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself? That's what Epictetus asked over 2,000 years ago. Not, how long until you're perfect? Not how long until you have everything figured out, but how long until you finally act? Because action is the only thing that creates results. Perfectionism is just fear wearing a mask. Fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of looking foolish. But the only thing worse than failing is never starting at all. Think about the things you've put off because you felt not ready. The book you wanted to write, the business you wanted to start, the skill you wanted to learn. How much time have you lost because you were afraid of being bad at something new? But that fear? It's wasted energy. No one expects you to be great at the beginning. The only person demanding perfection from you is you. And if you can let that go, you can free yourself. Ask yourself, what would I do if I wasn't afraid of failing? What's one thing I can imperfectly start today? What if my first attempt didn't have to be great, just real? Most people never answer those questions. They let perfectionism win. They spend their lives trapped in hesitation, waiting for a moment that never comes. But the ones who succeed, they start before they're ready. They embrace imperfection. They understand that the goal isn't to be flawless, it's to be consistent, and that's the real secret. Success isn't built on perfect moments. It's built on relentless persistence. The person who shows up every day, even when they don't feel ready, will always beat the person who waits for the perfect time. The athlete who trains through bad days, the writer who puts down messy first drafts, the entrepreneur who launches before everything is figured out, those are the ones who win. Not because they were the best from the start, but because they kept moving. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need every answer. You don't need to feel confident before you begin. You just need to begin. The work will teach you what you need to know. The effort will make you stronger. The journey itself will build the skills and the confidence you think you need before starting. And when you look back, you won't remember the tiny mistakes, the small missteps, the awkward first attempts. You'll only remember that you started. So stop waiting, stop overthinking, stop telling yourself that if you can't do it perfectly, it's not worth doing. Because the truth is, you don't need to be perfect, you just need to keep going. 7. Not everyone will understand you. No matter how hard you try, some people will never understand you. They will misinterpret your ambition, mock your dreams, or question your choices. And that's fine. You weren't meant to be understood by everyone. You will outgrow friendships. You will take paths others don't approve of. You will make decisions that make perfect sense to you, but seem foolish to them. And the more you evolve, the more resistance you'll face. People dislike what they don't understand. They fear change, even when it's not their own. But here's what you need to remember. You don't need their approval. Think about the times you hesitated because you were worried about what others might think. The moments you watered down your ideas to fit in. The times you questioned yourself because someone else didn't see your vision. How much time have you wasted trying to explain yourself to people who were never going to get it? You could lay out every reason, every argument, every piece of logic, and they still wouldn't see what you see. Not because you're wrong, not because your dreams are impossible, but because their minds weren't built to see your path. And that's okay. You are not here to convince anyone. You are here to become who you were meant to be. But the problem is that most people fear disapproval more than they fear regret. They play small, not because they lack ambition, but because they don't want to feel like an outsider. They seek validation in places that were never meant to give it. They adjust their dreams to fit someone else's comfort. They let doubt creep in, not because they lack vision, but because they've been told their vision is too big. In the process, they lose themselves. The Stoics understood this well. They live by a simple truth. Other people's opinions are not your responsibility. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that most people are driven by their own insecurities, their own biases, their own distractions. What they think of you is a reflection of them, not you. And yet, how often do we let their judgments dictate our actions? How often do we shrink ourselves to avoid criticism? How many times have we let fear of disapproval stop us from taking the next step? If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid, Epictetus once said. Read that again. Be content to be misunderstood. Because the truth is, most people don't see the world as it is. They see it as they are. Their doubts aren't about you, they're about themselves. Their skepticism is a reflection of their fears. Their criticism is often disguised as regret. They don't see what's possible because they never dared to try. And when you challenge that, when you step outside the mold, it forces them to confront the uncomfortable truth that they too could have chosen differently. So, why waste energy explaining yourself? Why spend time convincing those who have already decided not to see? Think of how much lighter your life would be if you let go of the need to be understood. Imagine how much faster you would move if you didn't pause to seek permission. Picture where you could be a year from now if you stopped explaining, stopped justifying, and just did the work. Not everyone will get it. Not everyone will support you. Some will criticize, some will laugh, some will call you unrealistic, arrogant, or foolish. Let them, because in the end, their approval won't make your life better, and their doubt won't make it worse. What matters is whether you believe in what you're doing. What matters is whether you're willing to move forward even when no one claps for you. What matters is whether you can stay true to your path even when others don't see the value in it. So move forward, do the work, trust yourself, keep building, keep learning, keep growing, and let them misunderstand you. Because in the end, when you look back, you won't regret the times people doubted you. You'll only regret the times you let their doubt stop you. 8. Accept that everything ends. Everything ends. Friendships fade. Careers shift. Life itself is temporary. But instead of fearing this, Stoicism teaches us to accept it. When you understand that nothing lasts forever, you stop taking things for granted. You stop waiting for the perfect moment. You stop holding grudges over things that won't matter in the end. Instead, you start paying attention. You cherish the present. You appreciate the people around you. You realize that time is not something you can waste, because every second that passes is a second you will never get back. Most people live as if they have forever. They assume there will always be another chance, another opportunity, another tomorrow. So they delay. They postpone their dreams. They avoid difficult conversations. They hold on to resentment as if it gives them power. They act as if time is an endless resource, something they can always make up for later. But there is no later. There is only now. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner you will start living fully. Think about this. If today was your last day, would you spend it overthinking? Would you waste it on meaningless distractions? Would you let anger or worry consume you? Of course not. You would live. You would say what needs to be said. You would let go of what doesn't matter. You would do the things you've been putting off. So why wait until the end to realize this? Why waste time living as if life is infinite when it never has been? Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think, not as a reason to panic, but as a reason to be present. To appreciate every moment. To understand that mortality is not a tragedy, it's a teacher. It forces you to focus on what actually matters. It strips away the illusions of permanence. It reminds you that this life, this version of you, this moment, will never exist again. Yet most people avoid this truth. They distract themselves, pretending that they have all the time in the world. They fear endings because they don't want to face the reality that everything they love is temporary. But this fear does nothing for them. It doesn't protect them. It doesn't change anything. All it does is rob them of the time they have left. But when you accept that everything ends, you stop wasting time on the things that don't matter. You stop chasing approval from people who don't care. You stop waiting for happiness to arrive someday, because you realize that someday is just an excuse to avoid living today. Look around your life. How much of your time is spent on things that don't bring you peace, joy, or meaning? How much energy do you waste on things that won't matter a year from now? How often do you hold back from saying what's in your heart because you assume there will be another opportunity? But what if there isn't? What if this moment, right here, right now, is all you ever get? Would you still hold back? The Stoics believed in memento mori, the practice of remembering that you will die. Not to depress you, but to wake you up. To remind you that this life is yours to live, but it won't last forever. So why waste it? Why stay stuck in routines that drain you? Why hold on to resentment when forgiveness is an option? Why postpone your happiness when nothing is guaranteed? Most people live with the illusion that they are in control of time, that they can always do it later, that they can keep pushing their dreams, their goals, their relationships into the future. But you don't control time. You don't decide how long you have. All you can control is how you use the time you've been given. And if you're not using it well, you're wasting the only thing you will never get back. So stop waiting. Stop assuming there will always be more time. Stop postponing your life as if you will live forever. Because you won't. None of us will. And that's not something to fear. It's something to embrace. Because when you fully accept that everything ends, you finally start living. Everything you just heard is not meant to be theory. It's meant to be practiced. Because knowledge without action is useless. You now understand that your thoughts do not define you, that the opinions of others do not control you, that no one is coming to save you but yourself. You see that fear is rarely as bad as it seems, that perfection is an illusion, and that life is too short to waste seeking validation. And above all, you understand that everything ends, which is exactly why you must live fully. But understanding is not enough. The real question is, what will you do with this? Will you wake up tomorrow and continue as if nothing has changed? Or will you take even one step toward the person you know you're capable of becoming? It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be grand. It just has to be real. So start today. Take control of your mind. Choose discipline over doubt. Choose action over hesitation. Choose to see yourself not as who you were, but as who you're becoming. And when you do, you will look back and realize that this was the moment everything changed. Now I want to hear from you. What part of this resonated with you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments, because your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today.